Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Are you ready to unlock your brain's hidden power? Well, try Innercise with our guest, John Assaraf. John, thanks for being with us.
Hey there, Bill. Great to be on with you.
Now, John, when I hear the word Innercise, of course, I think exercise. What is Innercise?
Great question. Back in the 60s and 70s, as many people know, Jack LaLanne coined the term exercise to build, the physical muscles of the body and to strengthen the internal organs. Well, with a lot of the latest brain research, we now know that we have neuromuscles, and we can strengthen our neural muscles with mental and emotional techniques so that we have more focus, more awareness, stronger belief patterns. We know how to develop stronger habits and how to disengage from disempowering ones. And that's all based on the latest brain research that's all in the book Innercise that people can use.
And I think that's great. And as I said to you before the show, we have been on 30 years. As our audience knows, we've talked to all of the top people in the success field. And this is one of the wonderful books. It was a pleasure going through it and reading it and preparing for today's show, because you bring out so many great points. So if people are listening, I urge them, write down the word Innercise. You're going to want to get a copy of the book after you hear some of the information John talks to us about, and he'll also tell you his website later in the show. Now, John, you say setting goals is easy, but achieving them is hard because our brain has two priorities. What are those priorities? What's standing in the way of my goals?
Love it, love it, love it. Well, there's obviously there's a part of our brain that I call the Einstein part of the brain, and that's the part of the brain that can imagine, that can come up with, how to achieve a goal. But then there's another part of the brain called Frankenstein, and Frankenstein wants to keep us safe. Frankenstein wants to make sure that there isn't any pain involved, whether it's emotional, mental, physical, or financial pain or risk involved in achieving our goal. So that's number one priority for the brain, is safety. The second part of our brain that works against us is the brain is focused on conserving energy. So when we achieve goals that we haven't yet achieved, chances are we may need to, change our diet. We may need to exercise. We may need to make more calls. We may need to, do additional work or different work. And when that work is perceived in the brain as in need of more energy, the brain says, no, I don't want to do that. I want to revert back to all of my old, comfortable behavioral patterns, thought patterns, and emotional patterns, because they require no energy. And so safety first, energy conservation is second, and then there's another hidden one that I'd love to share with people, if that's okay, Bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so one of the hidden ones that we've discovered is even when we have these goals that we really know will make our lives better, if our brain detects that the goals that we want to achieve are different than our initial map of reality in our brain right now, our brain will delete, distort, and do everything possible to get us to procrastinate and not take action, because we want to keep our map of reality, our map of our comfort zone intact, because that is one of the ways the brain keeps you sane and keeps you feeling like everything is okay.
So if something out of the ordinary, let's say a death in the family, now we can't control that, but that's something that is going to upset most people. It's an obstacle in the road, somebody we love, it's going to change our lives, our immediate lives, etc. That's going to upset us because it's going to upset our plans, and our plans was always to have John and Mary around in our life, maybe a favored neighbor or an uncle and an aunt. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Any traumatic experience that's either real or imagined, causes us pain. And even when we think about it, it can cause us pain. And our brain really doesn't know the difference between real or imagined pain. It processes the information the same way. But the same is true when we think of the polar opposite of that, and that is, enormous amounts of pleasure the brain first analyzes, but what is it going to take for me to achieve that? Could I lose money doing it? Could I get hurt emotionally? Could I, affect my current lifestyle? And what happens is we would prefer to stay in the possible misery or limited results we're achieving versus facing the pain of change. And unless the pain of change is less than the pain of remaining the same, we do not change for a long period of time.
And we have to think of that, I guess, a little bit, but it rings true. And I know whenever I read an author's books, I ask myself, is this, would I say this is true now that I've read it and he or her says it? And I'm reading your book, I said, oh my gosh, this is exactly right. I'm lazy. Why? It's easier to rely on an old habit, being lazy, watching TV, hanging out with friends, than going to school and taking a new course, reading a new book, working with someone as an apprentice to learn a new trade. That's hard. That's taxing work. And I might get yelled at or told you did it the wrong way, where if I sit home, I can't do too many wrong things.
Yeah, and I don't really even like to call it being lazy as much as I like to refer to being comfortable. And the question is, what have you become comfortable achieving, having, thinking, and doing? And one of the things that I believe is that we are all 100% disciplined. So a lot of people say, well, I don't have the discipline. And the truth is, yes, you do. You have 100% discipline to your current thought patterns, your current emotional patterns, your current behaviors, and your current results. And anything that we do that may take us out of those comfort zones, our brain deems as potentially dangerous. Our brain says it's going to require energy, and instead of using up energy, it says, you know what, let's just sit here and watch TV. Let's just be comfortable doing what we are comfortable doing.
Now, John, I'd like our audience to know, if you're just tuning in, you're saying, who is this wonderful person coming up with these ideas? Well, his name is John Assaraf. That's spelled Assaraf. He's written a book called Innercise. Think of the word exercise. This is Innercise. And John's going to tell us where the website is and where we can get the book.
If you want to get the book, you can pick it up on Amazon. And it's already a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's just been released. And you can also go to ignitemybrain.com. ignitemybrain.com. And the reason you'll want to go there as well is for anybody who buys the book right now, I'm also giving away $197 of brain training audios to help people manage their emotions better, to help people eliminate stress, to help people gain more focus and awareness. And I'm giving that to anybody who buys the book right now. So ignitemybrain.com is where you can get all the information.
And I will vouch for you, John, having prepared for the show, going through this book. It was one of the most enjoyable ones. It's an easy read. It's the type of book, if you take it and underline it, and if you really want to start seeing some changes in your life, you'll start thinking about what John says. When you're having a difficult day, you'll say, wait, maybe I'm sitting in the comfort zone. All these words will come back to you. Before we go with more questions to John, I'd like to remind our listeners that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan, and today our guest is John Assaraf, author of the book Innercise. Now, John, you talk about habits, and in your book you say they run below the level of awareness. What does that mean? Is that good or bad for us?
It's neither good or bad, and the thing that we have to understand, if we go back to a couple of things we talked about before, is safety first, but then energy conservation. So whenever we repeat, whether it's a thought, emotional, or behavioral pattern over and over again, we develop a habit for it. Now, there's a part of the brain called the striatum, and that is really where the seat of all of our habits are. And it's part of our subconscious mind. And according to the latest brain research, here's what's fascinating, Bill, is 95 to 98% of our daily, weekly, and monthly thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are triggered in the subconscious mind, and we automatically act and think and behave in a certain way day after day after day. So the question we should be asking ourselves is this: if most of what I'm doing is responsible for my results, and most of what I'm doing is result of my habits, can I release disempowering habits in the brain, which are nothing more than patterns that have been reinforced? And is it possible, using the latest brain science, to create new empowering habits that'll cause me to have a different way of behaving and achieving results? And the answer is absolutely. We are creatures of, and everybody knows the answer, this habits. And so we have constructive habits, we have destructive habits, we have empowering ones, we have disempowering ones, and I prefer to use those terms instead of negative or positive ones. Every single human being on the planet is driven by the habits that they have gotten from the time they were born, because we weren't born with any habits.
Now, John, if I'm taking good notes, I think I heard you say something like 97 or 98% of what we do is subconscious. Did I get that correct?
95 to 98% is automatic. It's part of the automatic self, subconscious. And even though everybody thinks, well, I'm really in control, think about it. When was the last time, you went on a diet and then broke the diet within a day or 2 or 3 or 4? When was the last time you made a decision to stop something and start something, and within a day, a week, or 2 or 3 weeks, you reverted back to your old behaviors? When was the last time you made a promise to yourself and you broke that promise? Now, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you don't understand how powerful your habits are, and how the habits are a way for the brain to preserve or conserve energy and keep you in your comfort zone. And by the time we're about 20 years old, 95% of our habits are already ingrained in us through what we learned from our parents, our teachers, our own experiences. And that means that we are going to be repeating those habits until we die, unless we learn what habits are in the brain and how to disengage the ones that don't serve us and create new ones that take between 65 days and 365 days to create.
So when I'm breaking that diet, and let's say my 8 o'clock snack in the evening, and maybe I like a bowl of potato chips, I'm doing that by habit. Yes, there's a little hunger there, but it's that salty taste, and then I'll wash it down with the beverage or something. But am I correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That I'm doing it by habit, and perhaps I'm not even hungry at the time, right?
That's exactly correct. There are triggers and addictions. So every human being is addicted. The question is, what are they addicted to? Are they addicted to empowering habits, or are they addicted to disempowering habits? When we talk about food, the 3 major addictions are salt, fat, and sugar. And that's why we crave, potato chips, which may also include the crunchiness of potato chips. But it's the salt in the potato chips, the little bit of sugar that they may put in there. Our brains become addicted to foods, to thoughts, to triggers, to emotions, to environments, and then we run on autopilot. And it's interesting you talk about, food addiction. I happen to love to have a little snack after, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I usually eat around 5:30, 6 o'clock. And whenever I'm in this disempowering habit, I put on 3, 4, 5, 6 pounds. And as soon as I stop it, I lose those 5 or 6 extra pounds. And so the key is to understand that we develop these habits, then the habits develop us. And if you want to really master your life and achieve different results, you really have to understand the nature of habits and how to be aware of the empowering ones and keep those going, and then how to disempower or disengage the disempowering ones.
And I'm just going to repeat that for our audience. We develop habits, and then our habits develop us.
You got it.
I think that's the word you used, and I think that's a big part of, obviously, your book. But if someone is getting this and they realize we've got a habit, we're doing it out of just habitual work, like getting up a certain time or staying up later or getting up earlier, whatever it is we tend to do we really want to do this in preference to maybe taking a course that could advance us, or doing something better for our children or our family or for ourselves? And this book, I think, wakes up that spot in our mind to start thinking about it. We're going to find out more from John and how Innercise can help us get over this hump. But at this point in the show, we want to remind our listeners that you're listening to The Secrets of Success. My name is Bill Horan. This show is produced at the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We'll be right back after the break.
90.3 WHPC wants you to know that if you're overwhelmed with college planning and not sure how to fill out forms to help pay for college, GetSchool.com is here to help. It's a free resource that's easy to use and can help answer your questions. Check them out at GetSchooled.com. Get guidance, get informed, get schooled. Brought to you by the Ad Council, Get Schooled, and the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Secrets of Success. I'm your host, Bill Horan, and today we're speaking to John Assaraf, author of the book Innercise. John, you say the brain wants coherence in your book. What is coherence? What does that mean?
The best way for me to explain coherence is if you think of your favorite band, or you think of an orchestra that you like to listen to. If a few of the players, or even just one of the band members or musicians, were not playing in concert, in coherence, it just wouldn't sound good. It just, something would be off. Well, when we talked earlier about comfort zones, when we look at doing something different, when we look at changing how we feel about something, we create dissonance in the brain. When we set a goal that we don't know how to achieve, or it's just out of our grasp of achieving, we create this dissonance, this chaos in the brain. And the brain does not like chaos. It likes coherence. So the coherence happens between your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, and your behaviors. And so when we set goals that maybe we don't have the knowledge on how to achieve them, there's chaos. Let's say we have a fear of failure, or a fear of being embarrassed, ashamed, or ridiculed. Or let's say that you have a goal, but you have a limiting belief that you're too young or too old to achieve it. All of these neurological processes create chaos in the brain. And a brain in chaos will always revert back to its comfort zone and do what you are familiar with. Now, the question then is, how do we create coherence where we get all the different parts of the brain working together? The part of our brain that chooses the goal, the motor cortex, which is responsible for behavior, the part of our brain that manages our emotions, the limbic system. Well, we can do that through Innercise, and through accessing different parts of your brain and getting your internal, your brain's band, or the musical players in your brain to work together. That is how you create coherence. And there are exercises that you can do to calm the fear centers, to calm the limiting belief centers, to calm the stress centers, so that the brain feels at ease instead of in a state of dis-ease or dissonance. And that is just a function of learning that you and I have a brain, but we are not our brain. Nobody ever gave us the user's manual for the most powerful organism in the entire universe. And the reason I wrote Innercise, I want to take all the latest research in psychology, the latest research in neuroscience, and put it together and give people the instruction manual of how do I get awareness built up? How do I stay focused on my goals? How do I manage my emotions better? And how do I take consistent action towards my goals and dreams without causing chaos in my brain? And all of the Innercises that I take people through and that I give them in the audios when they buy the book will teach people how to use their most beautiful brain better, so they achieve their goals faster and easier than ever before. That's really the whole promise of this book, is if you want to achieve goals that you haven't yet achieved easier and faster, not easy and fast, but easier and faster, then this is a must book to read and to follow.
Now, John, I want you to know, first of all, my pages of notes are already a mess because I've written so much down. I feel like I'm back in school, that you said, like I'm preparing for an exam, but you've given us a lot of great information. So before we go further, I want to remind our audience, if you've missed part of this, or if you didn't have the opportunity to write it down, maybe you're driving, you can always go to nccradio.org, go to The Secrets of Success and podcasts, and you can listen to this whole show at your leisure, take notes the way I did, and then go out and get John's book, Innercise. There's a lot of great information here, and it's rare that I take this many notes when I'm talking to a guest, but there's so much valuable information. If you're really on that course and you want to start changing something, whether it's losing weight, doing better in sales, getting ahead at work, or just making life a little easier for yourself, you're going to come come out with a lot of tips, but read the book with a pencil, pen, or marker so you can make notes of these things. Now, John, Innercise is the title of the book. Tell us about, can you give us an example of the Innercise that you talk about?
The first two Innercises that we teach everybody, there's probably about 18 of them that I teach in the book. But the first one is called Take 6, Calm the Circuits. And it's based on some of the latest research in the last 24 months around the fear and stress center in the brain. So whenever, we have an argument or a fight with somebody and the stress center activates, blood flows to that stress center, which actually takes blood away from the thinking part of our brain. And we become extremely reactive instead of responsive. So one of the things we know is when somebody either has an argument with somebody else, when somebody's under a lot of stress, when somebody wants to achieve a goal that they haven't yet achieved, they don't know how to achieve, or they've tried before and failed, and now they're worried that they might disappoint themselves if they try again, we start everybody off with Take 6, Calm the Circuits, and that is simply doing this. You take 6 deep breaths in a very specific fashion. You breathe in through your nose in about 5-second increments, and then as you're breathing out through your mouth, you pretend like you're breathing out through a straw. And so in 5 seconds through the nose, out 5 seconds through the mouth, but you pucker your lips and you breathe out like you're breathing through a straw. Doing 5 or 6 of these in 5 to 10 second increments back and forth deactivates the fear center, the stress center of the brain. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but when you do that, you actually open up that Einstein part of your brain. It's the executive director of the brain. It's the orchestra leader of the brain. And now you can make better decisions. Second Innercise that we teach, and I have audios for these to do them with people, and it's called AIA, A-I-A. And the first A stands for awareness. Now, why is this so important? Well, when you take 6 deep breaths in and out, and then you go to Innercise number 2 and you say, okay, now in this state of awareness, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I sensing? What behavior am I engaged in right now? And you do this without judgment, shame, blame, or guilt, just pure awareness. And then you ask yourself a question, what's my intention right now? And so is my intention to be focused or distracted? Is my intention to be angry or responsive? Is my intention, to not do this or to take action? Then you choose your intention, and then the A stands for action. Now, here is the key. Whatever action you're going to take, make it a small action towards what you want so you don't activate that stress response or fear response center again. So Innercise 1, Take 6, Calm the Circuit, followed by AIA, Awareness, Intention, Action. Now this puts you in control. This puts you in a responsive state where you can make decisions versus being in a reactive state and being controlled by outside forces. And one of the things that we've learned in the neuroscience field is that awareness is what gives us choice. And choice is what gives us the freedom. And when we interrupt the reactive patterns that all of us are geared towards and the habitual patterns that we all are functioning under, and we start to develop a new pattern of control, a new pattern of decisions, then we are much more capable in changing patterns and achieving our goals and dreams. And that's just 2 of many, many Innercises that I walk people through in the book and give them the audios for so they can train with the brain training audios.
John, I'd like to let our audience know that if you didn't hear it before, you're listening to The Secrets of Success. Our guest today is John Assaraf. That's spelled Assaraf. The book we're talking about is Innercise. And if someone is looking for that book, John, tell us the website and where we can get a copy of the book.
Great. The best place to go so you can read all about the book is IgniteMyBrain.com, IgniteMyBrain.com, and I'll give you all the information and how to get the brain training audios for free that are worth $197. And right now the book is available on Amazon for $10 or $11. Very, very inexpensive.
That's the steal of the century. And I will tell our audience, I've gone through this book, and before the show, I thanked John. I said, I really enjoyed. I enjoy preparing each show, but the information that I was taking out of here, and if you didn't get it, or you only caught a part of it, or you'd say, gee, did I miss something? What didn't I hear? Go to nccradio.org, go to the Secrets of Success podcasts, and re-listen to the show, but take a pencil with you or a pen, start to copy down a few notes and see what you come out of it with, then get hold of John's book, Innercise. This is the way you can really change your life, and now you realize what's holding us back. Our conscious, our subconscious, the habits we've developed. You have to have some way to overcome them and let your brain and your body agree with it. John's explaining it all. He makes it very clear. It's an easy read. It's not hard. And you are going to amaze people at the next cocktail party or on the train when you're riding, and they're going to think, gee, this guy is really smart. But you got all the secrets from John's book. Now, John, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Bill, you were just reminding me of a story. I was recently in Australia speaking. I was giving a lecture, and this woman came up to me, and she says she was actually crying as she came up after I did my lecture. She goes, "Oh, I just want to thank you. I said, I'm glad you came here to thank me because I thought you were going to hit me because you were crying for some reason. She goes, well, my name is Joni Sanderson. I'm in my 70s. I've never made more than $12,000 a year as a caregiver in a small town outside of Perth, Australia, with about 8,000 inhabitants. She says, I followed your work from your teachings, and she says, for the first time in my life, I've raised 6 children on a widow's salary of $12,000 a year. I didn't believe that I was smart enough or worthy enough to ever earn any more, and I realized, through your work that I am worthy. I can achieve more. She says, this year I've made $70,000. And she says, now I'm teaching this to seniors, letting them know that they can make more, they could be happier, they could lose weight, and it's all about the brain. And I was, so you just reminded me of, she was talking to people at a party and telling them how her life has changed because of it.
That's a great story. And just here's a lady who obviously had been on in years and doing the same thing for a number of years. She multiplied her salary by 6 or 7 times, if I did the math correctly. Yep. And just the feeling that we're always doing something for ourselves. And maybe we don't want to go to a local college or high school and take an extra class or learn French or start to get a certificate in fire prevention or medicine. But you can certainly pick up a copy of the book. You can do something for yourself. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. But again, I want our audience to know the book we're talking about is Innercise, Innercise, by our guest John Assaraf, Assaraf. And John, the website once again?
IgniteMyBrain.com.
Thanks so much.
IgniteMyBrain.com.
Thanks so much for being with us and for all the good you're doing. And I hope we're going to develop a lot of followers, and a lot of us will get over those bad habits. Thank you, Bill. You're welcome. I'd like to remind our audience that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.